It's not just an injury. It's a really bad injury. And Arsenal's luck just gets worse. This is the Arsenal News Show. I might as well call it the Arsenal Injury Show at this point, mightn't I? Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is our Arsenal News Show, joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you as always for joining me and making this a part of indeed your morning routines. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing well. I hope you've had a good week. We've made it to Thursday. I've got a day off today. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to try and detach. As soon as I finish this, I think I've got a couple of football things today, but the outside of those, it's going to be solid detachment, not pay any attention to social media until I have to later on tonight have a look at content for tomorrow morning, of course. Although there is a press conference tomorrow morning, which means there's no usual live show. There will be a pre-recorded show I'm hoping to bring you in the wake, of course, of all the news that we've been dealt with. But then there'll be a show on, well, actually the show on Saturday also is likely to be a pre-record also, only because I'm going to Leicester. I think my train, just have a look at the train, leaves at 7:10 in the morning. So afraid there'll be, for the next 2 days, no normal live show. There'll be pre-records for you, but it'll be a preview, I imagine, on Saturday, and a usual pre-recorded live show for you tomorrow. Good morning to those joining us in the chat box. Black Shine, Matt G, Rowan, Matt G, still classic Michael Oliver. We'll talk about that. Sweating Merlot. We've got Stevie, Shari, Ken. We've got Mark and Lars. We've got Kevin, Tom. We've got Black Shine. We know that. We've got Temmie and Steve. We've got James, Mike, Martin, Roy, and plenty more of you guys and girls as well. Thank you as always for tuning in, for listening. You all very much appreciated. If you could drop a like on the video, and of course subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on, so you never miss a show. Lovely stuff. Let's jump, shall we, into today's slides. We begin with a roundup of yesterday's Champions League action, in which Feyenoord took a step closer to a potential matchup with Arsenal. They managed to beat AC Milan 1-0 in Rotterdam. Celtic lost at home, probably unsurprisingly, 2-1 against Bayern Munich. Club Brugge managed to get an impressive 2-1 victory over Atalanta. And Benfica won 1-0 away at 10-man Monaco, which leaves Arsenal, of course, looking at this point, either playing Juve or Feyenoord. Of course, those second leg playoff matches are taking place next week. And so for that reason, we will find out more clarity about Arsenal's Champions League opponents in just over a week's time. But certainly the Champions League continues to throw up some interesting results, I think. And Arsenal will be hoping to go as far as they can, but will be sincerely affected by what's been going on with them this season. And we'll talk more about that shortly. But we need to talk about the Goodison Park final Merseyside derby. Everton deservedly getting a point against the red-carded Arne Slot in what was a brilliant game overall, and certainly an exciting moment for the fans there inside Goodison, experiencing their final Merseyside derby of the entire history of the stadium. There's been some amazing games played there, some brilliant players, of course. I don't know if you saw Mikel Arteta featured on the front cover of the Merseyside derby program, which I thought was a lovely touch, and certainly added a little bit of needle that we have needed. And of course, Everton took the lead inside the first 15 minutes, a goal from Beto to give them that score. But of course, Mohamed Salah arrived to help Liverpool back to a 2-1 lead. And when he scored that second goal, at that point, I was just thinking, it's kind of done. It's over. Liverpool will be going 9 points ahead. And that wasn't the case. I mean, I thought their luck was in, certainly when they saw Branthwaite's goal ruled out, Konate's blatant handball in the box, not given as a penalty. I just don't quite understand. I think he quite literally catches the ball, doesn't he not? Drags the ball back with his arm. Don't really know how that wasn't called a penalty, but it wasn't. But in the final seconds, that Michael Oliver of all people, decided to play the extra time that was added on within extra time. James Tarkowski with an absolutely brilliant strike, who then performed Kai Havertz's celebration. The antlers as he ran away, scoring. Amazing. The narratives are there for all to see. And what this means, of course, is that Liverpool failed to open up that 9-point gap to Arsenal by playing their game in hand. The gap, of course, to Arsenal remains still significant, a 7-point gap between Arsenal and the Reds. But the chaos that ensued after the game, both Curtis Jones and Arne Slot of Liverpool being sent off, Doucouré getting a red card as well for his antics at full time, where he went to celebrate in front of the Liverpool supporters. Curtis Jones taking issue with it, rightfully, I think, but ended up getting sent off in the process. And Arne Slot going up and shaking vigorously the hand of Michael Oliver, saying something that sadly we do not have the audio of, and received as a result a red card, which will see him miss the next. I don't know how many games managers miss. I know players obviously get 3 games for a straight red. How many games do managers miss for a straight red card? I don't know if it's 1 or if it's 3. I hope it's 3. But I think it's a 1-match touchline ban if they get a red card. But I'm pretty sure it's not 3. I think it's just 1 game. People in the chat seem to think it's 1 game as well. I don't want Liverpool's next match. Who are Liverpool playing next? Liverpool fixtures. Liverpool fixtures. Let's have a quick look. Their next game is at home to Wolves, so nothing too exciting. I think they'll probably be fine still in that game. But moving ahead, of course, the big news of yesterday that dropped pretty much as soon afterwards we'd finished our 8 a.m. show, where we spoke about Kai Havertz being injured, and we were hopeful that it wasn't too bad and that, maybe he'd be back at some point. Well, he's not going to be back, because David Ornstein dropped the report yesterday morning that Kai Havertz is expected to miss the rest of the season with a torn hamstring. Of course he is. I don't know why we ever doubted that wasn't the injury. That's just what Arsenal have had to deal with this season. Our luck has been utterly atrocious this season. And now, as a result, we're dealing with quite the most ridiculous outcome ever. That's Havertz, Martinelli, Saka, and Gabriel Jesus all injured. All out. 2 of them for the season. Saka for at least a couple more months, and Martinelli for at least a month as well. It's... Oh, I tell you what, if Liverpool managed to somehow not win this league, it would have to be the biggest bottling of all time for them not to. For the luck that they have, for what they have been gifted on a silver platter with Liverpool, with Arsenal and Manchester City, of course, having the issues that they've dealt with in this campaign. It has been served up to them. There should be no excuses when it comes to Liverpool and their title race this year, because, my goodness, the competition is being quite literally hamstrung. Pun certainly intended. So, yeah, Havertz out for the season. It leaves Arsenal with Sterling, Trossard as their only senior attacking players. We've got, obviously, a lot of youth players. We've got Ethan Nwaneri, who's broken into the squad this season. You've got the likes of Keon Edwards, Nathan Butler-Oyedeji. You've got Andre Harriman and Noose. You've got Ismail Kabia. But these are all very young players, or players that are just simply, in the case of Butler-Oyedeji, who is 22, same age as Calafiori, has not played really above League 2 level, unfortunately. And yeah, it's... It's just horrendous. It's utterly and entire. And of course, it has knock-on effects to our feelings about the January transfer window, which was, without a doubt, a cataclysmic failure. And Arsenal's inability, failure, incompetence to not sign a player during that winter window is coming back to hurt Arsenal with an aplomb. It would be fair to say. It is startling that we didn't sign anybody during that window. And I remember sitting here, I think, on the day after deadline day, saying that we are a Kai Havertz injury away from disaster. I was sitting in the Arsenal press room ahead of the game against Newcastle, and I was saying, I think I was talking to Ed Aarons, and I said to him, we are a Havertz injury away from a cataclysmic event that sees Arsenal potentially need to start Raheem Sterling up front. And lo and behold, maybe I should have touched wood more when I said it. Lo and behold, that is where we are. We have found ourselves in a ridiculous situation of epic proportions. It's nuts. Absolutely nuts. But it is where we currently are. For those wondering if Arsenal will enter the free agent market, Arsenal are not expected to do that. Fabrizio Romano reporting this morning that Arsenal are not in any talks with any free agents. There's not an expectation that they will sign a player who is a free agent. And to be honest, I've looked at the list and none of them jump out to me, to be honest, as being worth approaching whatsoever. I'm not enamored by any that I've read, and maybe some people are, but I don't think Arsenal need to do that. We're going to have to find some solutions internally. We're going to have to use a lot of young players. We're going to have to pray on a return of Martinelli, pray on a return of Saka before the end of the season. But at no point do I want to see either of those two rushed back. I really don't want to see either of them rushed back whatsoever. We need to be very careful with how we bring Martinelli and Saka back from these current problems, because we cannot afford to lose them again at any points during the season. So yeah, we simply cannot be in a situation where we are losing those as well. So please, 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 my goodness, do not rush back Saka and Martinelli from these injuries. It would be horrendous if that was to happen. Right, let's go into the chat box. In part 2 of today's show, we'll be taking some of your questions right after this. I'm so bored of this absolute horrendous misfortune we're suffering. It really does kind of sap that energy, doesn't it? From it, you just think, what's the point? Oh, what's the point? Why are we bothering? Because this season has just been absolutely atrocious, utterly atrocious. With everything that we've had to deal with. So yeah, oh man. Michael, thank you for the kind donation. What are your thoughts about moving Ødegaard to the false 9 and moving Miles Lewis-Skelly to the right 8? We're gonna have to find some solutions, aren't we? I think I wrote a piece actually that's going out on Friday, but it just kind of looked at what strange setup we could go with. I did preface the idea of a back 3. I know I've been a kind of anti it, but just for the sake of looking into potential solutions, it was a back 3 of Timber, Saliba, and Gabriel, and then kind of a 3-5-1-1 formation with like Wanerian, either Lewis-Skelly or Tierney on the left wing back positions. Then Rice, Partey, Marino as kind of a midfield 3 block. And then Ødegaard in front of them and kind of making it a diamond in the midfield. And then Trossard as kind of the tip of the spear. But yeah, that it's just having fun with different options that might be available. I just don't really want to see a front 3 of Sterling, Trossard, and Waneri. I think we need to be a little bit more imaginative. I really do. Ashley says emergency centre forwards, Calafiori or Marino. Maybe Leo, Nelly, Raheem is a centre forward choice. If not, I choose Calafiori. More comfortable with his right foot, played centre forward in his youth days. That's not going to happen. It's not. If Mikel Marino ever is seen in a centre forward position, oh dear, I don't know what I'll do. We cannot end up seeing Mikel Moreno play up front. Surely not. Axel says, Obi Martin must be scratching his head after a terrible decision this summer. Would be starting with Trossard, by the way. We're in deep water. Yeah, you have to think, looking at that, looking at what Chino Obi Martin's decided to do, is a massive, with the benefit of hindsight, of course. Even with the benefit of hindsight, I still think that he made such a mistake leaving Arsenal. He would have got opportunities on the bench in the team. We've seen the rise of Wanerian and Lewis-Skelly. And just look at it. It's such a mistake he's made. by going off, and he will be very well aware of that. Mark says, remember, Tierney can back up on the left wing. We should see him more. Gunner Down Under says the lack of leadership at the top, along with the inexperience across the board, has made us a laughing stock this season. VB says, frankly, if Liverpool fall off and the boys manage to get it done, it will be an absolute insane dub. If Arsenal won the league this season, would it be a bigger achievement than the Invincibles? Someone asked me this question yesterday. If Arsenal managed to win the league without 4 recognised forwards, the worst luck in terms of refereeing decisions up against teams that have been, putting out and could potentially reach points tally levels higher than that of the Invincibles, would it be a more impressive achievement than the Invincibles? I'm hesitant to say yes, as I think still going through a season without losing a game is unrivaled and will always be unrivaled. So I personally don't think so, but it's a question that I've been asked, and I personally don't think that could be legitimized. But a lot of you in the chat are saying, yeah. Abley says it might be. James says yes. Khan says yes. Maximus says it would be on par with 1989. Of course, some people rate 1989 higher than that of the Invincible season, and I understand why. Boise UK says Liverpool were time wasting hugely from the second they were ahead. Will there be a 2-week fallout from Carragher, etc., about how the venom going their way from all sides? I think we know the answer. Lewis says won't go down as history as it is, but probably would. Gavin said it would be an effing miracle. He absolutely would, mate. And this is the other question I've got, is that what's the expectation now? Like, what's the expectation? Because, going into this season, my expectation was Arsenal got a challenge for the league. We have to, again, try and win the title. Has your expectation had to be managed as a result of the ridiculous level of player absences that we've suffered this season? Because, I'll be very, very clear. I felt that January was a failure, right? January was without a doubt a cataclysmic failure. But none of the players that Arsenal, I felt, had to go and sign, which was a temporary short-term option. And, I wasn't looking at Arsenal signing a 50, 60, 70, 80 million pound player because I knew that wasn't feasible. But what Arsenal did fail in doing was bringing in that depth for the centre-forward option to give us protection, and they didn't. And that's just stupid. But any player that we could have brought in, I don't think would have changed Arsenal's ability to win or not win a title. All the players that we look at as short, like Kolo Muani, Morata, Andre Silva, people have suggested Asensio, even though he's not a centre forward, Rashford, any of these players that moved on loan, I don't look at any of them as being a difference in Arsenal winning or not winning a title if we'd have signed them or not. I don't look at it like that at all. I just felt like we needed to bring in something to give us depth in case we got an injury, and obviously that injury has happened. But I'm curious as to, has it changed your expectations for Arsenal this season? Rich says second and a good run in the Champions League. Andy says top 4. Maximia says top 4. Khan says don't drop out the top 4. Of course, top 5 looks what will be a Champions League place. It's worth pointing out. So top 5 is likely to be the Champions League qualification this season, not top 4. But I still think it's important to not drop out the top 4. Barry says top 4. Pat says top 4. Amar Oguna says, Tom, the owners have convinced me. Top 4. VB says, I'll be genuinely shocked if we don't fall away. AJ says, win the Champions League when Saka comes back. Faceless says, still challenge for the title to the end is the expectation from Faceless there. Maximus says, first things first, though, we must make Ato's position permanent. I think there's some satire there. I'm detecting it. James says, I respectfully disagree. Those players may not have elevated us to winning the league, but they would have prevented us collapsing. Well, that's what I'm saying, James. I don't know what you're disagreeing with. That's my point. I don't think any of those players would elevate us to winning the league, but they would have helped us stop from falling away entirely. That's exactly what I was saying. So I don't know what you're disagreeing with. Ashley says, lol, just options, Tom. It's time to get delusional. Raj says second and semis in the Champions League would be a great season. Z says top 2 still. Second for revenue, says Paul. King says, I disagree because Kolo Muani would improve us, thus improving our chances to win, but also healthy rotation. Now I just take it game by game. The problem with the Kolo Muani thing, obviously, is that Juventus were offering him immediate minutes. He's come in and started over Dusan Vlahovic. That's what he was offered by Juve. That was never going to be on the table from Arsenal. So he was always going to join the bigger club with more minutes available to him. Blue Red Trill says Moreno has false nine. Optimistic. Yeah, I'm so optimistic about our season with Moreno playing up top. CGT says, are there any free agents? Arsenal aren't signing any, so I don't think we need to even worry about that. Axel says, even though I was very disappointed after not finding a solution in January, I was positive to make a good run in the Champions League with Kai up front. Now I'm not sure anymore. Let's just back the team. Mohammed says Mariano Diaz on a free, used to play for Real Madrid. There's a lot of players used to play for Real Madrid that aren't very good. Mariano Diaz is sadly one of them. Entertainment says we need depth for rotation when we have 3 games a week. That's why getting injuries and players are playing too much. Royce says, Tom, on a scale of 1 to 10, how incompetent and controversial is Michael Oliver? 1, not at all, and 10, extremely. I say 4. Yeah, I think maybe 4-2-6-4. So just being a little bit maybe more reasonable than you there. Mr. Reese says, let's be our real owners and managers. Don't care about winning small club. Yeah, our manager doesn't care about winning those. No, Arteta doesn't care about winning. Andy says, Tom, if I had a nickel to predict what has happened, I would be rich. No ambition FC. I don't think anyone could predict this, man. I mean, name me one club that's ever experienced this. Just one. I mean, particularly I'd like a team that's challenging for a title. Name me one club you can remember that's lost their starting centre-forward, their starting right-sided player who happens to be the best player in their team, their starting left winger, and their number 2. Their number 4, if you like, forward. I'd love to know who. NSW says Bournemouth. Is Semenyo still playing? Is Kluivert still playing? I'm pretty sure they are. I know that they've lost Evan Nilsson and they've lost who's the other one? Is it Enes Unal that they've lost? But I'm pretty sure that Semenyo's still there. Pretty sure that Kluivert's still there. I'm pretty sure Iratara they've still got as well. They've lost Evan Nilsson, Unal, and Sinistera. I mean, Sinistera wasn't even starting over their wingers, so no, Bournemouth. Luke says Spurs. I mean, I think Heung-min Son is still available. I think Kulusevski is still available. I know they've had a lot of injuries, but they've not lost like their 4 starting figures. Son is indeed fit right now. They've lost Werner, they've lost Johnson, they've lost Odegaard and Solanke and Richarlison. I mean, that is a lot, isn't it? But they're not really title challengers. We'll be very honest. They're not really title. And to be fair to them, they're also, I think, in a relegation scrap this season. So that's I mean, if that's what we're looking at, yeah, Amberley Spurs weren't great even before the injuries. To be fair to them, I just need that one example someone would give me. You know, people say that the expectations have remained the same, or this was predictable. The classic thing is people turn around to me and saying, we could predict that this was going to happen. I mean, I don't know who on earth, who Houdini was that predicted that Arsenal could lose their 4 starting forwards, or at least 3 starting forwards and one of their main backups for the centre forward position, or the main backup. I've just never known it to happen to another side that are up there at that end of the table. I've never known it happen to any team. So I don't know who on earth was predicting that, to be honest. I mean, Arsenal started the season with Havertz, Jesus, Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, Sterling, and Nwaneri. 7 forward options. And we've lost 4, who were arguably 4 of the top 5 options of those 5, with Trossard, I think, being our 4th best attacking player. So, yeah, Mystic Meg predicted it, says Nunandinho. Yeah, absolutely. Mystic Meg. The Simpsons, yeah, good shout. The Simpsons might have predicted this. Certainly might have predicted this. Mr. E says, Tom... Oh, I need to put my voice on. Hold on. Tom, stop making excuses for this club. It's embarrassing. I need to go full Lee Judges. Get the arm. How did we not sign someone? We deserve more as fans. We've spent money on merch. I'm going to give my season ticket back. Give me a refund. I really went fully Judges with that one, didn't I? I don't know what the excuse is here. Like, I don't know what excuse I've got to come up with. Arsenal have lost 4 of their 7 forwards. And yet we're still meant to, just carry on as if nothing's happened, because otherwise we're just making excuses. Here we go again. Abiyako, Tom, please stop patronising us. It was a gamble, and each and every Arsenal fan saw the need for the club to add a player, even after injuries. It's almost like they don't listen to what I say. It's almost like they don't listen to me saying the words that January was a failure, that it was stupid not to sign anybody, that there is no way on earth I would ever be looking at Jason Ato right now as a permanent acquisition to be our sporting director. It's like they don't listen. I don't know what more I could do. I really don't know. Damien says, to be fair, you did pronounce all the words correctly, so it wasn't the best. Oh, that's harsh on judges, Damien. Harsh on our boy judges. Very harsh indeed. And says, Tom, one word for January was negligence. Absolutely, negligence. I would definitely say that's an appropriate word for Arsenal's ability to sign players in January. Raj says, you jinxed us, Tom, with Havertz. You asked hypothetical questions. What happened in the instance of a season-ending career to Havertz? I'm sorry. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Salahuddin says, please ignore them, Tom. It's comedy. I know it's comedy. That's why I read them out. They're funny. Mike says, I laugh whenever people say, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm hyper vigilant, so everything is foresight. I could see this coming. I'd have to have 5 players for every season to be able to slay every position. We need 5 players. Brian says, excuse me, Tom. You said in January on this show I wasn't playing FIFA when I called for wingers and strikers. Brian, I'm pretty sure I also said that we absolutely had to sign someone. So, take it as you will, son. Mr. E says, it sounds like you're happy with everything the club does. Yes, because me saying that the January window's a failure is a profession of love and support, unwaveringly so. Declaration of happiness for everything that we do. Honestly, mate, get in the bin. Jamsy says, no forward additions we could predict like you did after January. That constant overuse of our players would lead, of course, to injuries. I think we could certainly predict that if we didn't make any signings, the likelihood of players potentially getting injured increased. I still don't think that there was anyone on earth that could predict that you'd lose Jesus and Havertz to season-ending injuries, that you'd lose Saka for half of the season, that you'd lose Ødegaard for 2 months, that we'd deal with what we've dealt with some of the red cards we've suffered, that our brand new signings of Calafiori and Moreno would suffer significant injuries themselves and miss the majority of games over the course of the campaign. So I don't think any of that, no matter how, Mystic Meg you want to get, any of that was predictable. I had someone on Twitter saying to me earlier that we didn't need to sign Calafiori. The level of kind of where some brains go. Like last season, all we would talk about is how Arsenal need to improve the left-hand side, that we are so reliant upon Saka, White, Ødegaard to get us where we need to go. And apparently we didn't need to improve the left-hand side. Someone say to me that we should have known that Lewis Skelly was going to come through and do what he's like. Lewis Skelly's been brilliant, and he has been touted as one of our most exciting young players. Don't get me wrong, but the level that some have kind of extrapolated to say, no, we should have realised that Lewis Skelly would have come through and been better than a £40 million signing within the first few games we've been playing. We should have been able to foresee this. It's mad. It's crazy. Khan says the team will need more support than ever on home games, and we will have to be the 12th man. I really sincerely hope that the Emirates crowd gets behind this team more than it ever has before. I really, really, really do. I really hope that was the case. Jamsy says the only shocks are that Saka and Havertz are given their records. The rest had a history of injuries and would always have been susceptible to more. I mean, Martinelli has had a few. Jesus had a knee injury that was obviously fixed. It was a different knee that he injured, mate. So that's absolutely no indication there at all. It was an innocuous, really unfortunate injury. There's no way of predicting that Jesus does the ACL of his knee that has never had an injury. Like there's no predicting that. So I'm sorry, but you're wrong there. EK says, no use dwelling on it right now. Let Arteta move some academy boys into the main team. At least if we are 2 goals up, they can come in and give the main players some time to rest. And I think that's the way we have to approach it, isn't it? Like I think we have to, if we are leading in games, we're going to have to park the bus for a lot of fixtures. We're going to have to take some of our forward players off, give them a rest, bring the kids on, let them just run on counter-attacks. We're going to have to just play that way. We're going to play some of the most atrocious, defensive-minded football I think you've ever seen. If Arsenal get a lead in a game, we are going to be part of the bus FC. And I can't even really blame them for it. I can't blame them for that. If Arsenal get leads in games, we don't have the attacking capacity really to do too much until we get some of our other players back. We're going to have to go full Jose Mourinho. And let's be honest, we've got a manager and we've got players that are able to do that. We know that we are one of the best sides in the league when it comes to holding on to those positions, because we are one of the best, if not the best team at defending. So we're going to have to play some suffer ball, as Wonton Soup says. Absolutely. James says, why am I the kind of excited to see how we line up in the next few games? There is some intrigue, isn't there, James? There is some real kind of intrigue about what we might do. I hope that we do. VB says, absolutely cannot wait for the banter we're going to cop with when that happens. Bube says, so now Mourinho is a better option for striker than someone on loan? I mean, potentially. And statement says, Tom, I agree with you on Barcola. Our left side needs... Oh, yeah, I'd love to see Barcola sign up here. He's probably up there with... He's probably gone above Williams now for me in terms of a left winger that I'd like to see Arsenal go for. Oblako says, what do you think of the free agents? Ben Yedder, put Ben Yedder absolutely nowhere near this club, thank you. Maxi Gomez is... I was really surprised when I saw Maxi Gomez was on a free. For those that don't really know who Maxi Gomez is, maybe you're of a younger persuasion, but Maxi Gomez was an incredibly highly rated player when he was at Celta Vigo. When he was in his early 20s. He went to Valencia after scoring a hell of a lot of goals for Celta Vigo, and it just never really took, unfortunately, for him. Let me see if I can find the season where it really all popped off at Celta. In 1920, which was, 4 years ago, he was 24, 9 goals in 33 games. Was it 2021 he had that mad season? And that was the Valencia move. 2018-19. Was it this one? 13 goals and 5 assists, 22 for Celta Vigo. He was scoring in some pretty... he scored a goal and got an assist against Atletico Madrid in a 2-0 win for Celta Vigo over them. I think he helped Celta Vigo into the European competition one season. And that might have been Santi Mina, because Santi Mina is also on a free agent. It was the other Celta Vigo player that was doing the business. Oh, okay. It was 17-18. He scored 18 goals and got 5 assists at 21, 22 years of age in 36 matches. He's incredibly highly rated at that point, but he's a free agent now after leaving Valencia, going to Turkey. Didn't really do anything, and there's no free agents on the way, I'm afraid, people. Ethan says, who replaces Sterling when we play Chelsea? That's a really good point. We'll have another player down when we play Chelsea, because Sterling won't even be able to play. To be honest, as I've mentioned before, I wouldn't even start Sterling. I'd keep Sterling on the bench and change formation, to be honest, is what I would do. I wouldn't go with a front three. I'd go with a 3-5-1-1. That's the formation I'm going with. 3-5-1-1. That's what I'd like to see. Martin says, looking back, did you really think it was a 6-7 summer? I said it was 6.5. I mean, it's easy, obviously, with the benefit of hindsight. I looked at the wider context of that summer. Of course, the money that we made for players was a big part of that rating as well. Getting 100 million in sales, making 30 million for Nketiah. If you're looking just at recruitment, yeah, like 5 max. Like recruitment was like 5 at the absolute maximum. With the benefit of hindsight, now you look at it and say, yeah, you've signed Calafiori. He's missed huge amounts of games. If you look at Moreno, of course, he also getting injured at the beginning. But I gave it a 6.5 in the summer because, of course, the money that we made for players was really good and was a really big shift from things that we'd seen in previous summers. And I didn't mind the business that we did coming in, because I recognised that we would go for that centre forward the following summer. There's still upcoming summer. But January was a 0. Like there's no other way to describe January other than a 0 Like, just a categoric zero. Russ says, do you think the summer business led to Edu leaving? No, I think a lot more gets made of this Edu thing than there is to it. Arsenal made a counter offer to Edu. He wasn't forced out the club. They wanted to keep him. He was offered a position at a multi-club model, which is what he's always wanted, and was offered a huge financial package to take that offer. So I really think people make too much of the whole Edu thing. I've also seen, and shame on these people, right? And you may see it. You may have seen. I certainly have seen so many tweets yesterday from some fairly sizable accounts of people like using Edu's departure and saying Edu must have known something, or I can't blame Edu for leaving. And the same people have been absolutely battering Edu for years, absolutely battering the guy, saying that he needs to get gone, get Edu out of this club. He's not good enough. His business is poor. He can't get deals done. XYZ. I can't blame him for leaving. It's the most cartoon-like approach to any kind of discourse around the club. Edu left because he got an offer for a job he's wanted, and he wasn't going to get a CEO position at Arsenal. He's got ambitions to be that. I have huge criticisms of Edu leaving a project half-baked. I think he did some really good things. I think he did some, obviously, things that weren't to what we hoped, but I still think overall he did a really good job at Arsenal. He helped build a squad that took us from 11th to challenging for titles. I can't begrudge him of that. There were some shortcomings. There were some inabilities to get some deals done and deliver Arteta what he wanted. But overall, I think he did a good job. And the fact now that the people that battered Edu while he was at the club are now using Edu's departure as somehow another way to kind of smash the agenda of the club is the most hilarious, predictable hypocrisy that you've ever seen. It's just so funny. It's really, really funny and so enlightening as well. Gunspro says, is Jason Ato the second coming of Edu? If Jason Ato is appointed as Arsenal sporting director, the reaction after January will be, it's not worth even thinking about. It's not worth thinking about. He's done some good things, Jason Ato, and he was a big part of course, what some of the work that Edu was doing is a big part of those negotiations. And he's been a big part of course, the Zubimendi stuff that's going on behind the scenes. But I just don't think you can appoint him after that window. I just think it would be a ridiculous decision. With all due respect, I just think that after a window where you have taken such a big gamble for it to have blown up in our faces just 8 days later, I just can't justify it. I just can't see it as being justifiable. So, yeah, let's wait and see. Brian says, have you not seen the stats? Oh, we're still on the Osimhen thing. I thought I'd explain this. I really thought, I don't know how many times I could say it, but Arsenal aren't paying that guy's wage demands. There's a reason why Chelsea backed out of that deal on deadline day in the summer, and it should be fairly obvious to all of you now. NSW says, Tom, the reaction won't be much bigger than the January. I don't know. I think it would reach new heights, mate. I really, really do. I really think it would reach new levels of anger. Nigel says, what realistic transfer targets do you think we should have got over the line? I think, Nigel, it's about looking for those solutions in January. Like, I think we should have looked into maybe making Neto, I think probably should have been made permanent by spending like $1 million or $2 million on getting that, just him as the backup number 2 and then becoming our third choice next season. And then you can look at some Premier League players, perhaps on loan, like an Evan Ferguson, for example. You know, I think that's something. I mean, Alvaro Morata, I think if you'd have made a really strong play for him on loan, probably would have been able to get him. You look at someone like Andre Silva, who left RB Leipzig to go to Werder Bremen on loan. He is somebody that has scored goals in Europe, in La Liga, in the Bundesliga. I think given the opportunity, would have scored goals at Arsenal and would have been open, I think, to that loan move as well. So, yeah, I think the likes of Kolo Muani, I understand why he wouldn't have maybe not been realistic because Juventus have offered him guarantees about game time and he needs them in his position. Obviously, a lot of people have suggested other names that aren't realistic. And Nkunku, I'm not sure, Gary, that would have been the right option necessarily. I don't even know if Chelsea would have gone there because knowing that Arsenal may fall away into a top 4 race, I don't think Chelsea would have wanted to strengthen Arsenal during that window. So I don't think that was a realistic option. Lewis says, wasn't Morata turned down? It wasn't that it was turned. It was just we never really progressed. I mean, James McNicholas wrote the story for The Athletic. Arsenal never really made a big play in the end for Morata, and he ended up going, of course, to Galatasaray. Blood Clot Biking says Lookman, again, not a realistic January signing, of course. Arsenal's ability to spend this type of fees that you would expect for those, your 80 millions or whatever, financially under UEFA FFP was not realistic. My expectation for Arsenal was to find a temporary short-term option to cover those 4 positions, and to not have done that, I think, is deplorable, and a risk that has costed Arsenal significantly already this season in the short amount of time that we've already been. I think, you could have brought a player in that could have played a part in that Newcastle second leg, and we've not. Axel says, let's bring in Patrick Schick. Oh, we're really rolling back the TGT time here with a shout for Patrick Schick. To be fair to the guy, he's doing all right. He has turned his form back around for Bayer Leverkusen. He's got 14 goals in 18 games this season for Leverkusen. He's kind of moved Boniface, I think, out of the kind of the team for the most part. Boniface is still getting minutes, and he was heavily linked with an exit, of course, in January to Saudi. But Schick scored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in his last 7 games. 9 goals in his last 7 games. So don't you look at me and say Schick is the wrong argument, because Schick's a good player. If he was on loan in January, I'd have taken that in a heartbeat. But at 29 years of age, he's not going to be someone we sign. So there you go. Brian says FFP is wrong, Tom. Yes, FFP is wrong. Yeah. Ryan says, Tom, do you think that we'll see Nathan Butler-Odeji coming into the first team this year? Yes, I think we probably will. I think we probably will do that, and he will, I imagine, will get minutes. I think that he will absolutely get minutes. So let's wait and see what happens. Brian now says, Lookman had a release clause. Stop the crap. What's his release clause then, Brian? Please feel free to send me the January release clause. I'd love to know that exists. Because I've seen no realistic or accurate reports surrounding that supposed release clause. I've seen about a release clause from last summer that people have misinterpreted as continuing into January, but I've not seen anyone accurately reporting the new release clause, because the release clause he has in the summer, to what I was made aware, was for the summer. It wasn't for January. But feel free to send me the evidence, Brian, if the vein in your head doesn't pop before then. Ashley says Liverpool cluster, Villa, City, and Newcastle. They got Spurs at home, Chelsea away, Arsenal, Brighton. Our cluster is Forest away, United, Chelsea at home, and later we've got Bournemouth, Liverpool, and Newcastle. Is there a chance? We've definitely got a chance when it comes to our fixtures. Our fixtures are, without a doubt, much more realistic, if you like. They're much more realistic than Liverpool's, but unfortunately we're so short. We're so incredibly short in attack that we aren't, sadly, I don't think, got much of a hope. I don't like being pessimistic, and I look at myself very much as one of the more optimistic on the platform, but I've got to be realistic about my own expectations. The idea of Arsenal winning the title this season would be one of the greatest achievements in the club's history if they won the league this season, based upon everything that we've had go against us, and what we've self-inflicted on us as well, of course, with the lack of January signings too. So yeah, let's hope. Let's hope, shall we, that that's possible. It's just going to be so incredibly hard to see Arsenal make good on that. But thank you so much anyway for listening. I'm gonna wrap things there. I think it's going to be important, I think, for us to take stock of our situation. Tomorrow morning you will get a pre-recorded show, I'm hoping, if I can put one together in time. You will also on Saturday be getting a preview show that I'll try and pre-record for you also. We've got the press conference tomorrow, and I'm looking forward, of course, to hearing what Arteta's got to say. That's going to be a very interesting presser. A very, very, very interesting presser. And yes, I don't know what to expect. I've got about 18 odd questions in my head running around. I'm going to settle on a couple of them at some point. Please don't tweet me saying, ask Arteta this. I ignore those tweets. Just a heads up on that. I ignore all of them. So don't waste your effort. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be very interesting indeed to see what he's got to say, to see how he deals with, I think, a lot of those questions, because there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and I'm sure they will get asked. James says, please ask if we need to sign a forward. I wonder how that would go down. It's going to be a lot of, it's going to be interesting. I know I'm going around in circles saying this, but that's where my head's at. It's going to be very interesting indeed. Very, very interesting indeed. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Do drop a like, do subscribe if you're new, of course, and all the rest. And stay safe, stay well, stay happy, respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.